The Orlando Magic are quickly becoming one of the more underrated teams in the entire NBA. Now, I understand why they're underrated, at least in my eyes, because, it's Orlando. They're historically the Miami Heat's kind of like little brothers. And for the most part of my life, that has been true. And they really haven't been good since I've started watching the NBA. And by good, I mean they haven't really been like in the upper echelon of the NBA. They've been playoff teams before, but they've never been like a legit threat in the playoffs. But I do think that is quickly changing, and I think that they're becoming quickly extremely underrated and really flying under a lot of people's radar, and kind of unjustly so, because I feel like they're pretty obviously going to be good next year if they can stay healthy, and I'm beginning to a few reasons why I think that, and I think that they can legit be a dark horse contender out of the Eastern Conference, and I'm beginning to a few reasons why I think that in this video. So if that does sound interesting to you, please watch all the way through, and without further ado, without running on too much, just get right into this video. So the first thing I really want to do before I get into why I think they're going to be good next year is just kind of give a little bit of a recap of what they did last year. So let's kind of reverse a little bit in the timeline and go back to last year and see what they were able to do. So last year they finished with the second best defense in the entire NBA last year. They finished with a 47-35 record, which was good enough for 5th in the Eastern Conference, and they made the playoffs for the first time since the 2020 season, aka the vid season. Everybody knows what that season was like. YouTube doesn't like the word, so I can't say it, but I think we all know what I'm talking about. So for the first time in a while, they were able to make it back to the postseason, and although they did lose in 7 games in the first round, it was to a pretty good Cleveland team, and it was their first time in the playoffs as a pretty young team, so you can't really blame them that much, and at least they were able to compete at a high level there, and honestly, they did put up a good showing despite them getting bounced in the first round, and overall, I'd say it was a pretty successful year for the Orlando Magic as a whole. And what I would imagine they now are looking at and viewing this offseason as, they're like, how can we improve, how can we get better, and just build off of that already successful season we just had last year, and have an even better one going into the next year, and I think they were able to do exactly that, and I think they improved in a lot of ways. Their first way they're going to improve this offseason is going to be just through self-development of their young guys. They are a pretty young team, and especially their core group of guys is pretty young, and some of their main young guys like Paolo, Franz, Anthony Black, Jett Howard, they should all really combine together, self-improve, and get better as going into their next year as well. I think guys like Jett Howard are going to be huge additions to this team, because he's probably going to take all of the Caleb Houston minutes. Thank God. If I have to watch another Caleb Houston minute in my life, I will be miserable, and I'm not even an Orlando fan, and I know he's not an NBA level player, so hopefully with how good of a summer league Jett Howard just had, he can take those minutes and really play well in the rotation for them next year, and I think he will be a very solid two-way guy for them. Anthony Black might even be able to take over the starting point guard duties one day, maybe not next year, but maybe sometime in the future, and overall maybe he's going to be a very solid rotational guy for them, and I do think that he is going to be a pretty big piece of this team going forward. And then guys like Paolo and Franz, we know that they're going to get better. Paolo's already made an all-star game, I'm pretty sure, in his young career, and he's probably one of the most underrated recently first overall picks in the entire NBA. The dude is an absolute stud, and although Franz did have his struggles a little bit this year, especially from the three-point shooting, I think he's going to improve. I think he's going to keep getting better, and hopefully they can keep developing as a duo and continue to get better and better and better, and maybe they could even both make an all-star game this season. And then another huge splash they made in this free agency was they were able to sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope from the Denver Nuggets. So KCP historically now has been an absolute ring magnet for teams, so that is a very good omen going forward for the Orlando Magic. I think KCP, everywhere he goes, they get at least one ring. The Lakers, then the Nuggets, and now Orlando. Hopefully the trend can continue for him and his team. And I think he just really fits with what the Orlando Magic were looking for. They give him a shooting guard, which was a weakness in their starting lineup, was that shooting guard position. And I think overall he's going to be able to really improve them on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. They give a young team a veteran presence who's won at the highest level multiple times. He knows how to win. He knows how to lead a team. So I think that's going to be huge for him as well. And just overall, he's a very solid player, fills a huge need, and should make them better on both sides of the ball, which is a huge thing. As one of their biggest weaknesses last year was their offensive side of the ball, where I think they were ranked 22nd in offensive efficiency, which just is not good enough to win in the playoffs. But hopefully getting a guy like KCP as your starter is really going to improve that. And then overall, they also did draft Tristan Day Silva, although I don't think he's going to be a star, he's going to be ready day one to play in the NBA. He has good length. He's probably going to be a solid 3-and-D rotational guy from day one, and I think he should improve their offense greatly. And I think with Jett Howard getting injured to the lineup plus KCP, really they're both sides of the ball should improve. So their defense should stay elite, and their offense should at least be top 15, maybe even top 10 by the end of the season when they got their full chemistry together, if they can stay healthy, because I think they added pretty much 3 very solid guys that are going to be able to be good on both sides of the ball, which is huge for them. And those 3 guys being obviously KCP, Tristan Da Silva, and then Jett Howard getting introduced to the lineup in his second year in the NBA. And basically what all these moves and improvements in the offseason could result into, you could put it all in a big pot, mix it up a little bit, and then what comes out I think could be extremely fun going next year. I mean, health provided, I think they could legitimately have 2 all-stars on the team in Paolo and Franz. I think that they could be a top 5 defense once again, as they really didn't lose anything on the defensive end of the ball, and they only improved with adding guys who are also better on offense. So hopefully they can once again be another top 5 defense, which is huge in playoff basketball, but also become at least a league average offense, if not a top 10 offense by the end of the year. And if they can become a top 10 offense while keeping a top 5 defense, that team can be a dark horse contender any day of the week. And then obviously I think if they were able to do that, they could easily be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. I could see them having a similar record in the regular season to the teams like the New York Knicks. I think Boston is still slightly better from a talent perspective, and they're probably going to win more games, but I think they could 100% finish as a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference next year. And overall, I mean, they do match up pretty well with the Boston Celtics because they have 2 pretty decent big men in Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Wagner. Now, obviously, they're not as good as Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis, but I think they're good enough to match up with them, and they're not going to get abused like a normal below-average center would. I think they match up pretty well, and then they have guys like Jonathan Isaac who can really lock up anybody on the court, and I think he's going to help a ton on defense. And overall, this team as a whole, I just think is extremely fun to watch, and it's going to be one of the more better two-way teams in the entire NBA. And when you can be a very solid two-way, high-level team, you're always going to be able to win, because just look at some of the names on this roster that I haven't really mentioned yet. As even guys like Jalen Suggs is a extremely solid point guard in the league. He's a beast on defense, and he's okay on offense. Cole Anthony is pretty much the opposite. He's very good on offense, but not the best defender. Gary Harris is a very solid defender. Anthony Black has amazing size for his position and can lock anybody up, and if his offense can keep improving, that should help them a lot. Jonathan Isaac, when he is healthy, is one of the best defenders in the NBA. He can literally guard 1 through 5, and his offense isn't too shabby either. Mo Wagner's fine. Guys like Tristan Da Silva should be helpful. Like, I think overall, this team has a lot of switchability on it, and they can legitimately switch 1 through 5 in a lot of positions, and that versatility is huge for the modern NBA, especially when it comes to playoff time and you're guarding a team like Boston, where literally every single one of their players can shoot, and they're such a good passing team. You have to have the switchability, and I think that is exactly what this Orlando Magic team has for them. And I just think overall, they really do have a chance to match it very well with a lot of teams in the East, could finish top 3, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they become a legit contender out of the Eastern Conference, especially if they can just add one more star, and hell, maybe even Anthony Black in some universe can develop into that and become that 3rd star they want. And also, a side note, Jonathan Isaac's health is a huge part of what makes this Orlando team potentially extremely scary going forward. But really, that's kind of basically all I really wanted to say. I think Orlando is extremely underrated. I think they had a pretty good last year, and they're only set to improve even off of that. I think they could easily finish top 3 and maybe even a top 10 offense and top 5 defense. They improved all their weaknesses. They didn't get weaker at any of their strengths. I think they made a very good draft selection. Tristan Da Silva, they only added good players to this team, and the people they lost were really not important at all. And I just think overall they're a very good modern team. They switch well. They have a good mix of youth and vets. And I just think overall the Orlando Magic legitimately could be a dark horse contender out of the Eastern Conference. But unfortunately, guys, that's going to be for his videos. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think that the Orlando Magic are a super team, or a potential super team? Do you think they're underrated? On your thoughts in the comment section below. And like, point to like, man, subscribe button, that's the word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo.